want to be in leadership, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll figure a way out to make it happen. But with fully understanding that it comes at a price. It comes at a price of hard work, which does not scare me at all. Like, it comes at a price of being out of my comfort zone, which does not scare me. So like, you just have to persevere and be, like you said, patient. Like, because COVID really taught me that. I was like, कि मैं क्या ही कर सकती हूँ, मैं सिर्फ apply कर सकती हूँ.
Welcome to Creative Climb, a series that's all about creative inspiration and career paths. We'll be chatting with some seriously talented individuals who have defied the odds and made it big in their fields. From food stylists to design enthusiasts, we'll get up close and hear all about how they got into their dream schools, built killer portfolios, and the wild, wacky things they did to prepare for their careers. With witty banter, fun stories, and lots of coffee, I promise to keep you entertained and motivated. So sit back, relax, and join us in this incredible journey of creativity and success. So we'll start with you, and why don't you introduce yourself first?
Okay, so hi, my name is Vamika. I have a undergraduate degree in graphic design, which is kind of how we know each other, because I went to school with Gauri and I went to MIT School of Design in Pune.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing is, I mean, it's important to know, when I was in that program was very different. I think now, can I ask you a question? Is it Hindi English mix? Okay, is it just English?
You can do Hindi English. It's mostly Indian audience only.
Okay, so nice. So basically, when we were in college, that program was 4.5 saal ka tha. It was 4.5 years. So 4 years of school, 6 months of internship. I think once we graduated, now I think it's a 4-year degree program. When I was in college, it was a diploma program. So did that for 4.5 years. So when other people graduated at 21, I graduated at 23. Because of the length of my undergraduate program. I did that, and after that, my first big internship was in Chumbak in Bangalore. That was my diploma internship, it was the best learning experience. Like, I think I learned how to make like detailed illustrations from Chumbak, because that was their style, right? So did that, graduated in 2016, and before coming to the US, I was working in India for 2 years, and I worked as a graphic designer in so many different types of industries. I worked in fashion, because fashion, I mean, I never wanted to be a graphic designer. I wanted to be a fashion designer. That was my passion. I wanted to pursue it, and then somehow I didn't get into NIFT, and then I got into MIT, and my dad really liked the college, and I kind of was like, okay, yeah, maybe this is better. And once I was in MIT, I think after a month of being in MIT, I got like my NIFT acceptance, and at that point, I was not getting. I mean, I was getting some centers, but I was not getting like the main, like the big city center. So I was like, what's the point of pursuing this? I'd rather be here. Which now, in hindsight, I don't think I can imagine myself being a fashion designer, because I know that fashion, like I feel like for me personally, graphic design is a more versatile, like bigger field. Like, you can do a lot of different types of things, which is kind of what I did. After graduation, I got my, like, it was at that time, it was my dream job. I worked at House of Masaba as their in-house like designer. And there I did a little bit of everything. I used to do the social media designs. I had a big interest in print design for apparel, because again, fashion, right? And at that time, I didn't want to completely let go of it. And even in Chumbak, where I was a part of the design team that made like their first ever apparel collection. Like, they were launching their apparel in 2017, I think. 2016. So during 2015, I was working on that. I was like, this is best. I'm working in my dream company. I'm doing the kind of work I want to do. So print design, textile design kind of started from there. So then came House of Masaba, which is obviously, it's a very well-renowned brand for prints, right? So I did that. I was in Bombay. I worked then in healthcare at a healthcare firm. And again, I was a graphic designer. I used to do basically everything, because I think at that time, being a graphic designer, I don't know if that's the case now, but like, being a graphic designer means you do everything. You do branding, you do the marketing assets, you did a little bit of everything, at least in the kind of jobs that I had. I did not have a very narrow, job.
Banners, website banners,
I mean, depends on the company. Like if you're working in like a consulting firm, or if you're working in marketing at like Flipkart or something, you'd probably do like the banners, you do more marketing. But if you're working in like a fashion firm, I was doing a lot of like print for apparel. So it was like I kind of created my own niche, and then because my portfolio had that kind of work, I started taking up freelance projects for different designers like Priya Chabadia, who's also a designer based out of Bombay. I did like prints for her, like wedding collection, like lehengas and stuff. So at that time I was myself exploring, because up until that point I had done like western wear. So once I started working with her, I was like, oh, okay, now this is how I know how a print kind of fits on a lehenga. Like this is how I know how to design it for apparel that's not western. I did that. Then there is a wonderful company called Entertainment Design Company, which makes I think everybody knows they make the best wedding invitation. They make every celebrity's wedding invites. So I had applied to them to be a freelance, like a designer for them, and I was lucky enough I got it. So I did that for about a year, I think, at that point. And so when I had a few other jobs outside of like my full-time job, I kind of decided to be a full-time freelancer, because I had like sustainable sources of income at that point. So I did that for a whole year, and I had like retainer jobs, and then I had like other projects. So all of this word of mouth, but by just people looking at my work. But I think now when I look back at my like at the time right out after college, because I was working in such like detail oriented like companies like EDC, very intricate, very bespoke, House of Masaba, which is prints, like Chumbak, which is so detail oriented. Like you can zoom into a Chumbak illustration and you will see new things in that illustration every single time. So I think all of that taught me just how I don't want to use the word perfection, but like that taught me how to look at the details in anything that I make. Like I became crazy at one point. I used to zoom into my artwork all the time, like really zoom into it to see if there were any crevices, any gaps, anything. So I did that, but I think because I was kind of just like working for a really long time since college and after college, and I never had just one job. I had several jobs all the time, and I think it's a little bit of my personality where I'm just like, I can do this, I can do 17 things at once, which is not necessarily healthy in the long run. But at that point, you're new, you've just graduated, you want to, you're working for your portfolio. So I was doing that, and then I reached a point where I was like, I think I need a break. I need to either study, because right after graduation I was like, कि already इतना लंबा course है, 4.5 साल का है. So I, like my other friends, when they were doing their post graduation, I didn't have the motivation to, because I was like, I've just come out of college, and what am I going to learn if I don't work, right? In design, so you need practical experience. So after 2 years in like 2018, like I think Feb of 2018, I was like, I need a break. Like I need to either study, or I just need a change of pace, and education is probably what comes to most Indian people's minds. They're like, okay, like chalo post graduation kar lete hain, but us time pe pata nahi tha kisme karna hai, because again, I didn't know a lot of designers. I only knew 2 people from my college who had come to the US for a postgraduate degree at that time. I didn't know anybody else. So I was like, oh. And again, like I feel like so many things have happened in my life which were not my first plan, and I think that's just the story of my life. So I never wanted to come to US either. And this is like Feb of 2018. I was just like, kahan jaun padhne? And Hong Kong has a really nice university. It's called Hong Kong PolyU. Polytechnic, which was like I knew more people who had gone to Hong Kong than I did to US. So I was like, isi ka khula hai application. Every US, place, university I looked at, they were not taking applications. It was past deadline. It was past 31st Jan. So I was like, I'm just going to apply to, Hong Kong. I'm going to go to Hong Kong for a year. It was a year program. It was supposed to be a really like tough school. So I was like, I'll go. I'll just chill and I'll come back. Like that was basically the plan at that point. And then my dad, again, I feel like he has a big part to play in why I am here. He was like, now that you're applying, why don't you just email the US schools and ask them if you can apply. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And to my surprise, every single school said, yeah, it's fine, you can apply. So I was like, Okay, but like I think in March, April, I was at Gauri's wedding. And I was giving my Hong Kong Polyuka interview from the hotel room. That's kind of how it happened. So I was like, okay, I'll start applying to the US. I started applying to the US, and I again, like, I think subconsciously I just wanted to do fashion design, and I knew of Parsons because I had seen Project Runway. That is where my fascination. Yeah, no, that's where my fascination from that for that college came from, because I used to see Project Runway and I was like, this is the best school for being a fashion designer. I have to go.
Yeah.
10 years, like when I was 16 and when I had come to the US was when I first saw Parsons, and I was in awe. I was like, oh my God, I need to study here. Obviously, it didn't happen for my undergrad. So when I was looking at schools, I saw Parsons. Parsons had a program called Strategic Design and Management, right?
Yeah.
For masters. And I was like, seems like, and the way they had positioned it then, like that program curriculum goes through a lot of changes. But in 2018, जिस तरीके से उसका positioning था was almost like you said, like it was like a MBA for designers, right? So I was like, this looks interesting. This has part like entrepreneurship and part like user experience design and research. So maybe I should do this, right? I spoke to a few alums at that time, and they said, oh, the course is what you take from it, we know people who have gone back to India, and we know people who stayed here and who are working. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna apply. And to my luck, I applied to Parsons, Pratt, SCAD, any design school that you can think of, and I got in. And this is everywhere. And then after that, I remember 2018, my college was starting. I think because people started applying ek saal pehle na, so people who had applied in say September of 2017, their I-20s and my I-20 came together because I had applied so late. I applied in, I think I submitted my last like essay for Parsons. I think June 14th, I remember I submitted it. The following week, I got my I-20. And the week after that, I had my visa appointment. That's how quick it happened for me. And this is coming from a person who did not have any plans to come all the way.
20? Is it an invitation?
So I-20 is basically like your visa. Like you get a student visa, and your I-20 is like your travel document that the school has to send you. The school has to send you, ki this is a 2-year program, this person's coming. Like that is like our, like if I get stuck, I need I-20. Like that's basically what it is. And so that's what I'm saying. So people who had applied in September also got theirs in June. And I applied a week before. I got it like the following week. I took my visa appointment, and obviously now this is all pre-COVID. So like getting visa appointments at that time was not like it is now, right? So I got it, and literally my college was starting 17th August. My orientation week was starting 18th August. I flew to New York 17th August, but I collected my passport the same day from Delhi. So I collected my passport in the morning and I flew at night from the embassy.
God.
Yeah.
What is? Oh my God.
So everything happened in a probably like a month and a half. Like that's basically what it took to come here. And then I did. And I think I didn't even realize I was here till I went back to India. So I came in August and went back to India December, like December holidays, whatever. And that is when I kind of took stock. I was like, oh, I don't live here. I live 10.5 hours away. Like it's it's different. So till December, I had no clue because everything was happening so fast. Yeah.
But then, Vamika, like you said, you decided for Parsons and all of this because you just wrote to them and you just went like that. But there's a lot of decision making involved in the sense of ki 2 saal ka course karna hai ki nahi karna, because I think it's a big thing for a lot of us, especially when they're already working. ठीक है कि 2 साल का course करे कि नहीं करे. Why? Because being honest with you, a master's in design doesn't guarantee those jobs as MBA or MS in America would, like that.
Mine was an MS. So that is one of the things that kind of motivated me. Also, when I was in MIT, because mera diploma program tha, and at that time, again, like I am the kind of person, I hate to say it, like even when I was applying for design schools, I'm the kind of person who wants a thali of options in front of me because I want to choose. I don't want to be in a position where I have only two things and मुझे दो में से एक चीज select करनी है. So even when I was in MIT, in the back of my mind, I was like ये diploma program है, degree नहीं है. And उस time पे I think so. I mean, it's important to know both my parents are doctors. So because they are doctors, for like the way I grew up, like education or post graduation and all, like just continuous improvement and learning. They have always pushed me for that. So even when I was in undergrad, दिमाग में था ना कि diploma है, degree नहीं है. I had done a correspondence in from Pune University. So I did like a BA in English, and it came in handy when I was applying to the US because a lot of the programs wanted a degree for undergrad. So they were not, even if you went to a design school, it didn't matter. Parsons was one of those programs where a lot of the people who I went to school with, who I went to MIT with, couldn't apply to Parsons because they did not have a degree. I was able to do it because I had a degree. The other motivation to do that particular 2-year program was, I was like, ek to, if I'm going all the way to the US, I need to go to a good school. That's one. Number two is, if I'm going all the way to the US, I at least need a STEM program, which is what my program was. So the STEM program gives you, so if my program is 2 years, STEM program will give you 5 saal ka visa, 5-year student visa. As opposed to if you do have a non-STEM program, which is a lot of design programs, right? So you do like an MFA, Masters of Fine Arts in User Experience Design, for example, that's a 1-year program. Your student visa will only be 2 years. 1 year of your program and 1 additional year. Whereas me, it was 2 years of my program, and because it was STEM, I got 3 years of additional like visa where I could work. So that was the other thing. I was like, I wanted to be a STEM program because I want the additional time to work, because 1 year is very less in the US, like to find a job, especially when a lot of the things when you come to the US are not in your hands. Like your luck is not in your hands, the economic conditions are not in your hands. God forbid if you have a pandemic, which is what happened when I graduated, then it's even worse. So those were my two, was that I wanted to do like a proper like STEM program. So I kind of like every other school that I had gotten into, none of it was STEM.
So having a STEM program for US for 2 years, which will eventually give you a 5-year program, was a major decision-making factor for you.
Yes, it was. It was because I knew, and again, like I see, the thing is, I know a lot of people plan a lot, na, ki like what is the return on investment, jobs kitne ki milti hai if you study in the US. To be honest, I didn't do that because at that point my goal was not कि अच्छा अब मैं ये लोन लेके जा रही हूँ तो मुझे इसको pay off करना है. At that time it was just I am going to study, I am going to study. And again, because my parents were like, तुम्हें वापस आना है, you come back, you want to stay there, you stay. And luckily I didn't come from like I know a lot of people have like financial burdens where they have to stay here, like I didn't have that, even though I had a loan. It was never like कि मुझे लगता था कि मैं इंडिया जाऊंगी तो, because आने से पहले भी my life was good, right? I had a good like foundation of work, so it was never like कि मैं वापस जाऊंगी तो मुझे काम नहीं मिलेगा. Like that fear was never there. I know कि even if I decided to come back, I would pick up my freelance practice. I would eventually work towards making it a studio, which is what I wanted to do when I was in India, and I was working towards it. So I don't know, that fear of like what will happen अगर मुझे job नहीं मिलेगी, वो नहीं था when I was coming here to study. But yeah, having that 3 years additional was a very big decision maker, because again, I was like, you never know what can happen in life. I at least need like a master's of science, like again, doctor parents, degree versus diploma, they will always say you need to take the course which has the degree. So yeah.
Did you have to give any exams for this program specifically?
No, I had to apply normally, like you have on the portal, you apply, and then I had to write like an essay, which is called statement of purpose. So I had to write an essay of why I wanted to study, what was interesting, all of that. Yeah, I had to do that.
Cool. So now quickly, how was the course, and like what was the course about, and what was the highlight for you?
So again, like this course, I feel like goes through a lot of changes every year. When I had applied in 2018, it's kind of positioned as like design MBA. It was like an MBA for designers. You would learn 2-3 things. You would learn entrepreneurship. You would learn how to have your own business. You would learn how to, because again, like I said, I wanted to have a studio. So I was like, okay, this sounds like it aligns. You would learn user research, you would learn design thinking, which again, at that point 5 years ago, design thinking was not a big buzzword as it is now. At that time it was the design process, and I was like, well, ye to mujhe aata already. I am a designer, whatever. And then it was part research of like, okay, how do you conduct research, design research projects? So for me, it was like, okay, this is interesting. It is a little bit of everything. 2 saal ka program hai. Business ethics, sustainable business model. Like it had a lot of things which were more business focused than design focused when I joined. And then I started noticing कि वो हर साल curriculum में थोड़ा थोड़ा change हो रहा था. So I think now it's more positioned as user experience and business. When I joined, it was more business strategy, innovation, sustainable business model design, user research, like all of those things.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my alarm. So yeah, that was the program, and I joined it. And I think that program is very heavily dependent on the teachers you pick. So every course had like 3 people teaching the same course, right? So you would pick your own professor. And obviously, the minute you change your professor, your learning experience completely changes. So again, I was very lucky. All the professors I chose were like, I used to be crazy. I used to be the first person to book a class. And it was like the Hunger Games of booking a class, because you would know, na, popular kaun hai, kiske reviews achhe hai. You could look them up on LinkedIn. You could see their body of work. So I was very lucky. I had like the best teachers. And I was in New York, so that helped a lot. But that is basically like the essence of that program. Yeah.
So rather than asking who should come for this course, I should ask who should not come for this course, because you've been through that, and those are the scary things that people are always, like, karu nahi karu, kaise karu.
Yeah, who should not come for this course? So I think मतलब मुझे लगता था कि design school में अगर आप post graduation करने जा रहे हो तो वहाँ designers ही होंगे, which was very wrong on my part. I was the only person from my batch who had a formal degree, undergraduate degree in design.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I met people who were engineers who had come to do this, program. I met people who worked in advertising, but like nobody else who had like a graphic design. I mean, a few people, but maybe 2-3 people who had like studied design like I did. And at that point I was like, yeah, how are they going to manage, like design is so connected, this, that. And then I realized being a graphic designer and doing strategic design and management was a very big plus, because here I was talking about how to set up a business. And then I also knew how to brand it. So, like, I think that having a design degree combined with what I learned was a very big plus in my opinion. But people who shouldn't do this program, so see, you have to look at how they have positioned the program now. If you are somebody who does not like a lot of research, I'd say maybe not. Like, and by research I don't mean just desk research. I mean like going out in the field, talking to people, very consumer facing, right? Like getting their input. If you don't like that, you might not like it as much, I think, because research is a very big part of even you setting up a business, right? Business innovation, strategy, all of it comes from research. So if that's not something that you heavily like, then you might not like it as much. But I think that's probably the only thing. Like if you want to know, see, strategic design and management is just basically how do you handle a complex business problem using research and using this design process that starts with research. So, I mean, I work at FedEx now, and FedEx is not a design company, right? But like I work in the innovation and design team. That हमारा काम ही ये है कि FedEx will come to us and say कि ये हमारी business problem है, how might we solve it? How might we solve it का एक process है. That starts पहले research करो, then synthesize the research, then you go back in front of the customer if you've designed a solution and you ask them, do you like it or not? So it's research heavy throughout. So if you don't like research, then you might not enjoy it.
And other things like moving to New York, doing everything on your own, that atmosphere of like moving from a small city in India, or even like from a bigger city in India to a big ass city like New York. That's also one thing, because I think I know that a lot of people face that problem because you एकदम अकेले हो जाते हो, बहुत लोगों को जानते नहीं हो. If you don't have people that you know in your class or like other courses, so all those things also factor in, I think,
Yeah.
when you move abroad. So what about that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I have been out of my house since I was 17. I grew up in Kota, Rajasthan, right? And uske pehle, till about 11 years of age, I moved a lot of cities because again, my parents were moving a lot, right? So I have always been comfortable with moving cities. Like मेरे लिए तो कोटा से पुणे भी दूर था, you know, like बहुत लंबी ट्रेन थी to get from Kota to Pune. So Pune was a new experience for me. Bombay was new. I used to go to Bombay when I was in Pune quite often also. So I've stayed in Pune, Bombay, then I worked in Bangalore. I was probably, again, like, even further away than Kota alone, right? So for me, like, the move itself was never, at least till I got here, it was never like, oh man, you know, I'm going so far away. But like I said, when I had come here, 6 months baad, I kind of took stock of, oh, I live far away, like, you know, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is difficult. It is difficult to be so far away because it's not, I feel like anywhere in UK is still better. You can get home in 6 hours. Here it's going to take you a day to go back home, right? Yeah. Minimum a day, even with the fastest flights. So it is difficult. But again, like, I feel like New York is an anomaly. New York is not really like America. And I say that New York itna diverse hai. New York mein itni, like, if you want to find a niche for yourself, a hobby that you have, you'll find a group to do it, because that city is full of immigrants. It's full of Turkish people, it's full of like North American people, it's full of Indian people, Pakistani. Like, my entire batch had so many Indian people. So even before I reached America, there was a Parsons SDM 2018 group where people were asking each other visa questions, you know, whatever. So I think it also depends on the city. Now, if I had gone to like a smaller city in the US, it would have been a little more difficult for me. Like, New York enables you because it's the best city to be in your 20s. I feel like you get to meet so many people are very, like, the culture there is stranger helping stranger. So people will help you even if you don't know them, right? I think a big part of this is also like how introvert or extrovert you are. Like, I was never, I wouldn't say I was an introvert, but मैं अपने में ही रहती थी. I had a very good group of friends in college. तो मुझे कभी लगा ही नहीं कि I need to meet more people. I was more than happy having my own life, you know, being with my friends. But then when I moved to New York, I was like, I don't know, something's changed in me where like my program also was very social. Like, we used to keep having college ka kuch, you know, people used to keep traveling, and New York itself has so many things to do that it's easier to be alone in New York than to be anywhere else in America, because it is not America. It is an anomaly. Like, actual America starts when you get out of New York. This, like, I live in Atlanta now, this is America. I've lived in Memphis, Tennessee, that is America. New York is not. So, like, anybody I speak to now, I tell people who are working also now, ki if your life gives you an opportunity, if you have the financial means, right? That's another thing. It's ridiculously expensive. So if you have the financial means and if you have the opportunity, spend a month of your life in New York. I say that to everybody. Like, if you're working there, then to nothing like it. But if you can study there, please take up that opportunity, because I feel like that city has really changed me. It has changed my life. And it will always, like, वो लोग 4 धाम की यात्रा करते हैं ना साल में एक बार. I do that with New York. I go to New York once a year. And I've been living out of New York for 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years now. So every year I'm like कि एक बार तो मुझे जाके ढोक देना है New York में. So yeah, if you can go stay there, you should. But again, like, I feel like every good thing kind of lies outside of your comfort zone. So at that point, I was like, okay, I need to study. Like, traveling to America itself was not new to me. I had done it before. So, like, coming to America was never the issue. And I think it was because of the city. I never felt like alone there. I had so many friends all in the same boat. So I think I would say the same thing. Like if you feel like आप अकेले होने वाले हो, वहाँ पे 4 जने आपको और मिलेंगे who will probably think the same. So
Yeah.
you'll make your own group of people who are who feel alone, you know.
Mm.
So I think it's just you just have to sometimes just take a leap of faith and be like, chalo, it'll work itself out, which is kind of what happened with me. Yeah.
And what about when you graduated and when you were looking for jobs? What was your process? And do you think having a degree from Parsons in this course, strategic management wala jo course tha, did it help you? I'm asking you in context of how to explain. Like I studied at UAL, at LCC. So when I applied to, for example, like I also went out of my way and I'm like, I'm going to apply to Pentagram and Pentagram Design. I applied there and I got a call. I definitely think that it, of course, they need someone who has. I might be someone who had those skills that they were looking for that time. But I will not shy away from saying that the reason that they would have shortlisted me is because they saw that I'm doing this particular course at LCC. I can say that because I totally feel it. While there would have been places where I would have gone and they wouldn't have noticed my college or my degree. And in India, so no one even knows about it. So let's just like that goes out of the picture. But so that's what I want to ask you. How was this thing for you?
Does it help? Yes. I mean, it helps in the sense that if somebody is looking at your CV, they will look at your pedigree, right? Of course, like if today I have to pick a doctor, मेरे सामने आप 2 doctor रखोगे, one who went to Stanford Medicine and the other who didn't. Who are you going to gravitate towards? Obviously, the one who went to Stanford Medicine. No, because again, that doesn't say anything about the other person's skill. But I'm saying initially, when you're selecting somebody, when you're right out of college, all you have to show is the college you studied at, right? That says a lot about the kind of person you might be. Like if like in India, if somebody says, oh, I went to IIT, well, suddenly you feel like, oh, it's difficult. You know ki IIT mein ghusna itself is difficult, right? So maybe this person is a little above average than somebody else, right? So yes, it does help initially, but I will also say what I learned from my experience was I had a very good body of work before I even came here. Like I didn't come here when I was 22, 23, right? Like some people come straight after undergrad. I came here when I was 25 years of age, 25 Indian years, which is a lot. Like by 25, a designer in India has a certain amount of experience, right? And portfolio. But I realized यहाँ पे जो companies India में बड़ी हैं, Masaba, Chumpa, EDC, nobody knew what the companies were, right? So I realized, and I used to work in my school also. At Parsons, I had like a on-campus job, right? I used to be a communication designer. So I had to start building my body of work here in the US for them to be able to say ki, acha, this person has worked in US also. So I started part-timing at like a small it's not a small studio, but a studio in New York. My professor kind of put me in touch. I did a lot of freelance work for people in the US who owned companies, right? So I did an internship because I graduated at the worst time. Nobody was hiring. There was a full-on hiring freeze 2020 May through December. I did not even get one response for my applications, not a single one. I started interviewing in Jan of 21. Interview. So I had to work, right? Like you are on certain restrictions on the visa where you can't be unemployed, right? After your college. So I was freelancing, I had part-time jobs, and again, I did my internship in UNICEF. Like that was a huge deal. Like अगर मैं उस time पे सोच लेती कि अरे यार ये तो बहुत कम पैसे दे रहे हैं, मुझे नहीं करना, right? So I would not have had that body of work. I had to think about the name. I had to think about the value that one name is going to add to my resume. So yes, did my going to Parson help? Absolutely it did. But past that initial selection process, your work is going to stand for you, right? Yeah. I had very, very good like case studies and thesis even in college. But then when people saw the work I did with UNICEF, with my freelance like projects, with my part-time jobs. That is when they were about to say कि अच्छा ये इंसान ने सिर्फ इंडिया में काम नहीं किया है. This person has worked in the US also. So I would say like if anybody is going to a different like country, forget you were a big deal in India. Forget all of that even exists, because it doesn't. Like you go to a different country, 2 साल का तो 2 नहीं तो चलो 1 साल का तो आपको प्रोग्राम ही होता है. उसके बाद आप जॉब देखना शुरू करते हो, राइट? So between that 1 and 2 years of moving from your home country to a new country, you are a different person. Your course has added new skills to you. So you can't count on your work before that. You can only to a certain extent. Like जब तक मैं यहाँ आई थी, मेरा सारा काम was very graphic. It was graphic design. It was branding, packaging, textile, fashion. You know, it was all of that. So उस हिसाब से यहाँ पे मुझे जॉब वैसे ही नहीं मिलती. एंड
कैसे किया वामिका?
नो, सो द थिंग इज अगेन यू हैव टू थिंक. यहाँ पे अगेन अनदर थिंग आई लर्नड इज इंडिया में आप ग्राफिक डिजाइनर हो तो आप सब कर रहे हो. यू नो, ब्रांड डिजाइनर को भी, ब्रांडिंग वाले को भी ग्राफिक डिजाइनर ही बोलते हैं. यहाँ पे एवरीथिंग इज सो नैरो. लाइक आई लर्नड कि if I am a graphic designer, that means something completely different in a different company. Yeah. So if I look at PepsiCo hiring for graphic design, for example, right? Their job description had nothing to do with brand and packaging. Their job description was only somebody who is needed for making marketing assets, social media posts. And I'm like, but I can do more, right? I'm not just this. Then I realized that people call it different things. So agar yahan pe you want a job as a branding designer, you have to look for roles that say brand designer. Yeah. You can't look for graphic designer. Everything, the work streams are very narrow, right? So if I say I'm a visual designer, which we do in India because we are visual designers, right? That means completely different things here. Visual designer means you are a designer who makes apps. You are a designer who makes websites, right? And I had to learn that. And again, a lot of the job descriptions here, it is very company dependent. Like for FedEx, like when they had posted this job, it was a little more broader, a role that we want somebody who can do a little bit of this. Then there were companies like Peloton who had posted a job description and they wanted a brand designer who had 5 years of experience designing only sports packaging. So I'm like, good luck finding that person. I don't know where you're gonna find that human being. But like, so it's very dependent on company. But I did realize that I started calling myself something completely different. I was like, if people are making up roles, I'm gonna do it. I started calling because I was like, I have done graphic design. I don't want to just completely
ignore it.
Yeah. I was like, it's a skill, right? I could just be called a strategic designer because I did the graphic design. So I started calling myself a communication design strategist. Does that exist? No. Did I create it? Yes. Because I was like, I do both, right? You can't just say I'm one or the other. I have both skills. So those are the things, like, again, like now I can tell people that. But when I was in the process, I was like, with each passing day I was learning something new and I was pivoting. I was like, chalo ab ye kaam nahi kar raha hai. Then I realized कि strategic design management के अंदर भी it's called different things. People call it user experience designer. People will say we need a user experience designer who can also make apps. And I'm like, you mean a UI designer? So there's so much overlap, first of all. Second of all, it depends on the company कि उनको बिल्कुल narrow करना है या they want to keep it a little more, broad. Communication designer means something else. Graphic designer means something else. Brand designer का तो मतलब ही अलग हो जाता है, right? So just finding, like people say, you need to find where you fit. Like just finding where my skill sets fit was, I think, the most challenging part. Because at that point, right after graduation, I was applying for both kinds of jobs. I was applying for pure core design jobs also and non-design jobs also.
Management-ish.
My inclination was a little more towards the non-design ones because I was like, मैंने अभी पढ़ाई करी है, I want to use it. I was like, yeah.
Another thing that's my question, like very personal question I want to ask you, कि when I finished graduation, almost the same time as you, when I was applying for jobs, I did not know how much a role pays for in India. I'm talking about in India that, okay, I'm applying for a brand communication designer role. They will say, okay, we will pay you 6 lakhs an annum, or we will pay you 8 lakhs an annum. And someone will also say, we'll pay you 3 lakhs, like that. That time we did not know that what the pay scale is, and then uske baad next year, third year, second year, third year, fourth year, this is how it happens. Cut to I moved to the UK. Then there again we got a job, and I also got a job out of college, again with a very renowned company. But I was like, I have no idea that what they are, because I couldn't judge on the ladder that where do I fit in that ladder, and how much whatever they're offering me, is it good enough or no? Because if I compare it to the Indian rupees, it's definitely a lot, and it's good
You
enough.
can't do that. That's the
हाँ,
problem. Yeah.
नहीं
Yeah.
वो नहीं करना है. I'm just trying to say कि even in the UK you can't, I mean I can say कि अच्छा हाउस बिल हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, उसके बाद भी बस इतने पैसे बच जाएंगे. पर क्या पता बस इतने बचने चाहिए कि इतने बचने चाहिए, मेरे को ये नहीं पता है कि मैं
Yeah.
कौन सी जगह पे स्टैंड करती हूँ. यहाँ पे मेरे पास कोई, there was no way for me to find this out. And again वही बात है, the role for me was also brand identity designer with BCG in their digital wing. BCG का digital जो भी है,
I interviewed at BCG also, but as a communication designer in New York. Yeah.
So this was a role that was based out of London, and I had no bloody idea how to fix it. No, like I was like, I am lost. कैसे करने? So of course I didn't pursue it. For some reason I came back to India and whatever. But for you, I want to know like कैसे decide किया? क्योंकि डर नहीं लगता कि क्योंकि इंडिया में भी ऐसा होता है ना, they try to like undersell you and then कुछ, but कैसे किया?
So the thing is, when you're here ना, जो पहली जॉब होती है ना, वो मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में तो एटलीस्ट आई कैन से कि हमारी चॉइस इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द वीजा लॉट. सो यू technically would like to go for a company that is sponsoring your H1B, which is your work visa, right? So आपके जो options होते हैं ना, वो थोड़े से limit हो जाते हैं, especially. So that's what I'm saying कि a lot of this depends on luck, right? आपने graduation के बाद आपको पहली job तो मुझे लगता है I think now, like we're in 2023, अब तो बहुत सारे metrics और बहुत सारी websites हैं where you can even see the last 5 years का trajectory of what is the average pay for this role or whatever, right? Like when you're right, when I was in India, I feel like we didn't know कि अच्छा average क्या है. फिर जब when you start working, you talk to your peers, you know talk to other people, you realize कि अच्छा कि actually इतना है. And in design, a lot of it is also dependent on your skill. If you have the work to back it up, people will pay more money. It's just that's how it is, very simple. And I had realized that when I was full-time freelancing. I was like, mera kaam acha hai, I have this body of work, so I started feeling a little more confident asking for more money. I am also confident with asking for more money and not getting it, because I was like, I have a retainer job, so it's okay. I don't have to work for less money. But again, it's like a muscle that it takes time to build. You have to start from somewhere. And again, everything is very dependent on work. Like the first job I got was to edit a picture for 500 rupees, and I did it not because for the money, for the experience. But you have to, like, if you're in India, you need to decide कि किस टाइम तक मेरे को सिर्फ एक्सपोजर के लिए काम करना और किस टाइम के बाद I have to work to make money. You need to know that very clearly. But I think now the people have a lot of resources. When we were in college, it was nobody knew anything. Design itself as a field was so new up to. And I remember even when I started applying here, I had given myself a year after college. And like एक साल में अगर job नहीं मिली, मैं जा रही हूँ वापस. Which is funny because COVID था, right? It was like a freak show. It was a freak incident. Nobody knew क्या हो रहा था. I was in New York, which was the hub of COVID. सब जगह hiring freeze था. So, and even in that environment, I know people from my batch who got a job. So, like, what are you going to say? It's luck, right? It is luck, it's timing, it's destiny, it's whatever it is. But what I could do at that time was just incessantly apply, which is what I did, and get rejected, which is what I did till about December. And then Jan onwards, I was like, यार ये ना मेरे पास 3-4 महीने ही है, अभी तक कुछ हुआ नहीं. To have a plan B. So I started applying in India.
हाँ.
even when I was in US.
हाँ.
It was like कि ये तो नहीं अगर होगा अगले 3-4 महीने में तो I have to go, and I actually ended up, I interviewed, I got a really good job at a really nice company in India. It's one of the big fours. That is all I will say, because I didn't get that job. I don't want to like say it. I mean, I got the job, but I didn't take it, so I don't want to say it. But I got it. I was like कि चलो, I mean, यहाँ नहीं बनेगा तो वहाँ तो बन ही जाएगा ना. Like again.
I also done this, by the way. When I was also applying in the UK, I was applying in India also, and I have gone on a holiday to Switzerland all on my own. Like I went for a 2 weeks what do I say, solo trip, and in that solo trip I got an assignment from an Indian company जो 2 दिन में करके देना है, because इंडिया में तो ऐसे ही है, परसों कर दो, you know, like परसों ही कर दो, तो वेले ही बैठे हो, मतलब, you know, like that. And I would have actually said no कि नहीं करूंगी, पर मुझे ऐसा लगा कि बैकअप का भी बैकअप चाहिए तो ठीक है यार, कर देखती हूँ. So I remember like one day I'm sitting in Interlaken, बाहर हवाएं चल रही है और मैं बैठ के assignment बना रही हूँ.
Gorgeous place to work out of Switzerland. But that's what I'm saying. Like I'm the kind of person कि मेरे को choices चाहिए life में. Like I don't want to be put in a corner where the circumstances choosing my life. Like I want to choose it. So I wanted the options. I always want options. Even when I was straight after school, when I was applying to design school, I had given every exam you can think of. Like I applied for BA in English to Delhi University, Bombay University. I applied everywhere and I got in everywhere, wherever I could, right? But I chose it at the end. I was like, nahi hua to. That is just my mentality, right? So I started doing that. Wo to chalo, again, luck, whatever. It worked out. I started getting interviews. And then eventually I got the job I have now, right? Again, I think it was meant to be at that point, but nahi hota to I was ready to pack my bags and like go back to India at that point, because I didn't think, like, I know there is a perception of people who come to the US and if they go back after studying, there is a very big perception ki wapas aa gaye, you know, like you failed. Like there's a thing of why, and I feel like that is in exponentially more for people who come to the US. I have seen it कि इतनी दूर गए, इतना पैसा लगाया, फिर वापस आ गए, and oh, you know, this person didn't stay there, and I'm like,
or
like for me,
or they will think that what do I say, पैसे का waste कर दिया, वो क्या बोलते हैं, shameless, like
हाँ, बिल्कुल, this person is so brat, just went there to have fun and then वापस आ गए. Because again, the price difference between studying in, like, for me, if I had studied in Hong Kong versus the US, obviously exponentially more here, right? So that, I don't know, I don't agree with that mentality. I never thought of it like, and again, I have to give a lot of credit to my parents, because I didn't grow up like हमारे घर में 4 जने हैं, like there's 2 people to make a decision, me, my dad, my sister and my mother. So like they were like, वापस आना है तू वापस आ, तेरे को वहाँ रहना है तू वापस. So like again, a lot of it is very dependent on your immediate circumstance, family, you know, whatever. वो मुझे लग रहा था, I was feeling कि मैंने इतने पैसे लगा दिए हैं तो I should at least recoup my loan, and so I was giving it my best. I was like, 1 साल तो चाहिए मुझे, and that's what I told my dad. I said, just give me a year. Let me at least try with everything that I have. If it will work out, then it was not meant to be. But at least let me try. And उस time तो कोई क्या ही बोलता ना यार, like COVID चल रहा था, किसी को again कुछ पता ही नहीं था कि आगे लाइफ में क्या होने वाला है, वर्ल्ड में क्या होने वाला है, लॉकडाउन का, like it was so uncertain कि सब फिर चुप ही थे कि चलो देखते हैं, let's time and see, you know, how the situation kind of evolves. What was your question? I forgot what the question.
Move on from this. So I wanted to just basically come back center में and say that after all of this, like पढ़ाई करी, इंडिया में किया, ये किया, वो किया, you're here now. From what I'm gathering, I think you feel like you're in a place where probably again you were meant to be, because अगर वो ग्राफिक डिजाइन की नॉलेज नहीं होती, वो इलस्ट्रेशन की नॉलेज नहीं होती, तो then you would still not be so confident and comfortable in this role, because you're like, अगर आई इसमें भी आई तो मैं देख लूंगी, you know, because I have the. And one thing I want to say, I didn't want to interrupt you earlier. I remember, Vamika, when you were at Chumbak, that I was also in the same boat as you. I did not apply at Chumbak, but I remember it was such a big thing कि Vamika को Chumbak मिल गया, because Chumbak उस time पे more than a apparel company or like a something that like the goodies जो बनाते हैं उसके ज़्यादा it used to be considered as a design studio. It was almost like a design studio that is creating designer stuff and
Yeah.
converting into merchandise, but design was at the core of it.
It
So,
still is.
Yeah. So
That company's ethos is very design friendly. Like if you work in that office, you feel like you're working in a studio. Like the people there are amazing. They hire very, very talented people. Like genuinely the best illustrators I have met have been at the best mentors I have been at Chumbak. The best owners really, like they have an open door policy. Like I would really highly recommend. It's one of the best places I have worked at in India, hands down. And for me it was a big deal too, dude. Like and to be honest, like because they value design so much, they pay their designers what they deserve also. So for an intern who was in college at that time, technically that was my diploma internship, I was getting paid 20,000 rupees, which mind you, this is 2016,
I think.
2015. Yeah, and there were not a lot of people who were getting that much stipend. So for them to acknowledge that this is an intern who will get paid 20,000 rupees, kudos to them. I think I remembered what you were asking me. How do you know if you're getting undersold? You will. They are going to undersell you. Like companies will always come to you with an offer which is on the lower
end.
But when you're in the US, like again, my choice was very straightforward, dude. Like I had 2 offers at that time. 2 of those companies were paying me way more money, but they were not sponsoring my H1B. The one company that was offering my H1B was my obvious natural choice, because I was like कि मैं चलो 1 साल तो मैं काम कर लूंगी, फिर next year क्या? Because यहाँ पे इतनी uncertainty होती है till you get a work visa. Like student visa पे चलो STEM था तो I could work for 3 years, but what happens at the end of 3 years? You don't have a choice till you get a work permit. So sometimes you have to make a call of H1B ज़्यादा important है या पैसे? Maybe in your first year of STEM you can take that risk कि चलो मैं 1-2 साल ज़्यादा पैसे कमा लेता हूँ, I'll try for H1B next year. But for most immigrant people, I think the choice becomes very obvious where you will go technically, unless you are a risk-taking human being and you are okay with that level of कि चलो मैं next year मिल ही जाएगी job. Like मुझे तो इतने महीने हो गए थे where I was not in that position to say कि नहीं मैं और I'll try again next year, So it was just an obvious choice. So I was okay with initially getting a little lesser money, because I was like, I'm in this for like at least the next 5 years, right? So you have to think of the long-term benefits of a visa, I guess.
Yeah. So how do you see yourself now? मतलब अभी कैसा लगता है कि next, I don't know, how do you see? Like, do you see next 3 years, 5 years? Generally, how do you plan for yourself? कि next 3 years कैसे लग रहे हैं? कि यही करूंगी, कुछ different कर लूंगी?
नहीं, I think I'm liking the space that I'm in. I think I really like, again, like something I've learned on my job is I'm good at like managing people and projects. So I feel like I would like to be in leadership. So again, like that is something मुझे 2 साल पहले if you had asked me, I would have not said that. I would have said I'm very happy being a designer. But now that I've had this experience, I'm like, no, I want to be like a creative manager of some sorts. Like I that is the trajectory I have in my mind now. But that said, my life has never gone according to plan. Something or the other has always happened in my very carefully laid out plan. So I don't know. Like, and again, you have to consider a lot of the complications that come with your work visa. Ye company mein hai, nahi. Like, you have to figure all of that out. But if all of that goes according to plan, then I think for the next 4 to 5 years, I'd like to kind of gain more like leadership experience, especially like now that I work in a corporate. I kind of like that I get to be more than just a designer.
Yeah.
I'm not a designer on a team, which again, no harm in being that. Like I know a lot of people who want to be individual contributors all their life. They don't want leadership. Unko sar dard nahi chahiye of management. Like they don't want the pressure that comes with like the goals, you know, that you have to deliver on these goals if you work in like leadership and management. I kind of like that. I'm liking that now. So I'd like to explore this also fully ना, like अगर मैंने अपना design career fully explore कर लिया, which I don't think it's true. I think design is ever evolving.
Yeah.
But I like that I am the client, if that makes sense. Like that is the easiest way for me to put it. But I also work with design agencies, right? Who have designers on their teams, and I used to be that. I used to be the designer, except now I'm on this side, so I like this side. I like being the client.
Nice. I like this part of our conversation. Yeah, cool. I think we'll wrap. I think it was quite insightful for someone like you who's been like always motivated कि अच्छा ये नहीं होगा तो ये कर लूंगी, ऐसे नहीं होगा ऐसे कर लूंगी. For some people, you know, they are very like crystal clear on what they have their eye on that price, and if they don't get it, then you know they are shattered. कि अब क्या करें? You know, what are my options? So it's a good perspective that you like to have all your options and then decide the best thing for you, which is great. And इतना easy नहीं है, I must say that. मतलब even though you've said it just like that, ऐसे भी कर लिया, ऐसे भी कर लिया, ऐसे भी कर लिया, I am sure even though that cracking that chumbak thing, working there, even like doing your own thing in Bombay when you were doing it, I know that it's not easy, man. I mean, और वो छोड़ के जाना, I must say that. I mean, क्लाइंट बेस बनाना इंडिया में या फिर कहीं पे भी अपना इतना डिफिकल्ट रहता है, एंड देन टू से वही ना आते हुए पैसे को भी मना करना कि नहीं अब अगली बारी से मैं नहीं करूंगी, यू नो, लाइक दैट, एंड गिविंग योरसेल्फ दैट ब्रेक, दैट टाइम इज वेरी वेरी important. So yeah, I think patience is something that we should all you know,
patience and perseverance. Like I think I am the kind of person, if I have decided मुझे ये चीज करनी है तो then I'll do it only. I will figure a way out. Like I'll figure a way out to make it happen. Like I wanted to not let go of passion. I figured a way out to do it in graphic design. Like that's just, I feel like the kind of person I am. Like if I'm saying I want to be in leadership, I'll figure it out. Like I'll figure a way out to make it happen. But with fully understanding that it comes at a price. It comes at a price of hard work, which does not scare me at all. Like it comes at a price of being out of my comfort zone, which does not scare me. So like you just have to persevere and be, like you said, patient. Like because COVID really taught me that. I was like कि मैं क्या ही कर सकती हूँ, मैं सिर्फ apply कर सकती हूँ. Learning to let go of things that are not in your control is very important. And I think I am a very type A person. I like to control a lot of things. My inner designer is like कि ये चीज aligned, this needs to be like, you know, this needs to be perfect. And I remember one of my relatives once told me like कि तुम, you know, मक्खी के ऊपर मक्खी मत बैठाया कर. Like not everything can be perfect, you know, all the time. He was like, you know, you need to learn this. And like with my current job, I have learned that you can't always strive for perfection. Yeah, it's exhausting. You will not get it. So sometimes good enough is good enough. Like if it's good, it's good. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the best. So you have to pick your battles. You have to pick कि मुझे अपनी एनर्जी कहाँ लगानी है. अगर आपको अपनी एनर्जी अभी जॉब ढूंढने में लगानी है तो आप वो करो. लेकिन फिर जॉब ढूंढने के साथ ये मत सोचो कि जॉब नहीं मिली तो just do. Like focus on what is in your control. Like don't try to control everything, which was my issue. I was like नहीं, वो होता है. Like if you come here and you're in that uncertainty of अच्छा अभी I'm looking for jobs, you get anxiety, you get very anxious, right? Especially if you're an immigrant in a country which is so far away from your home country. So it happens, but like just have to be patient. And like now I feel like I have seen so many ups and downs and like so many bouts of uncertainty where I trust myself to figure it out. Like I'm like मेरे अंदर का ऑप्शन सीकर एंड यू नो लाइक मेरे अंदर का जो इंसान है जो बोलता रहता है कि ये नहीं हुआ तो ये कर लूंगी, ये नहीं हुआ तो ये कर लूंगी, will not let me be at peace. Will always like tell me कि अच्छा चलो now what is your plan D E, like what is it? So
calm yourself down, you know.
Yeah, I get very nervous when it's like होता है ना कि कई लोग they work very well under pressure की deadline 2 दिन बाद है तो आज ही सारा काम होगा. I am not like that. Like I am a plan oriented type A personality where I'm like कि अगर मुझे मेरी 1 महीने बाद डेडलाइन है तो मुझे इस टाइम तक ये खत्म करना है, उसके बाद छुट्टी पे जाना है, उसके बाद ये करना है, उसके बाद like I'm very hectic like that. So everything, if I know कि मेरा visa expire होने वाला है तो मेरे पास 6 महीने है, 7 महीने पहले मेरे को ये काम करना है, like I am like that, so I think that helps my case. But,
and you've also I've seen on Instagram you also have a page where you're making those
yeah
style guides, you know, so you've got your way with fashion, like some way or the other, like you
like I don't want to let go of it, because I feel like everything, I am passionate about a lot of things, you know. I'm passionate about design, I love my job, like I'm passionate about just fashion and clothes and Bollywood movies, and like I don't want to leave that either. So any form of creative expression that lets me, like, you know, again, like I don't have to do it, like I treat that other page also, sometimes I have to remind myself ki na ye business nahi hai, you can't do this, like you have to calm the hell down, like if you're doing this for fun, like I have to remind myself. That's my problem ki if I take on something, I'm like I can make this better, I can do this and I can do that, but I have to remind myself ki you're doing this for fun, this is not your job. So yeah, I mean, I used to have a design page for the longest time when I was looking for jobs and stuff. So I still have that. I have not deleted that. It's not active. I don't post anything on it because I 2-3 साल से कुछ ऐसा काम नहीं किया है, you know. But one day I was just like, you know, like I really love like clothes and shoes and bags, and not bags, but like everything else. So I was like, yeah, maybe why not? Yeah, it's just an Instagram page. And now that page has become like my time pass. Even though sometimes after my work I have to remind myself ki it's okay if you don't have it's fine, it's just one Friday, Saturday, but it's a constant battle that I have with myself. And like but yeah, that's another thing I would say. Like I know when people come abroad and they're in the job hunt process, we keep everything aside कि नहीं, एक बार job मिल जाए, फिर एक बार job मिल जाए तो ये करेंगे, एक बार job मिल जाए then I'll go for this party. Like I would just say don't do that, like just live your life. Job, I genuinely feel getting the kind of job is a lot of hard work but a lot of dumb luck. So do the work, manifest it, but do the hard work also. Like I'm very big on that कि just focus on the work. जो चीज मिलनी होगी वो मिल जाएगी, जो नहीं मिलनी होगी वो नहीं मिलेगी. But I think it has come after 30 years, you know, not like I was not like this when I was younger, but yeah, just don't stop living your life because you're looking for a job, or you know you are not happy in your job. Go to the place, like just continue living normally. That's all.
And this part where you're saying na ki you keep on thinking about that one thing that you time pass ke liye kiya tha. This is something we all learn with time, dude. Like with me also, I have like एक चीज, दूसरी चीज, तीसरी चीज with this YouTube thing. I'm like, oh my god, I decided मैं हर 10th day post करूंगी. आज 12वां दिन हो गया, अभी तक मैंने कुछ post नहीं किया. And then it's a stress. I'm like, क्यों करना है stress यार? How can I even, for example, how can I even talk to Vamika if I'm stressed कि बनानी ही है video? So that's something. So this is something that no one can teach you, but you yourself only can.
No, I agree. Like when I was in college, I used to have a blog. I used to have a fashion blog, and I took it very seriously. And I used to take my own pictures and like it was like a food and lifestyle, whatever. And then I couldn't continue it. Like post college, I was like, this is too hard. Like if I need to make that my career, I have to give it time. Like you know, and at that point, I was not willing to do that. I was not willing to not have a job and just do that full time, or give myself a year to do that. When I was 23, right? अगर मैंने उस टाइम पे करा होता तो अभी तक तो obviously now that would have become bigger, right? I didn't do it at that time when like Instagram was just coming up. I wanted to focus on being a graphic designer, and I did that. Same now, like is my focus going to turn to my other page? No, it won't, but it is still a good release for me because I also don't want to be saturated. I don't want to din raat just think about my job. You know, I need an outlet for release. So that's why I do it, but it is, I have to remind myself that is why I do it. It's not a job. So yeah.
Cool. I think that was very nice talking to you, Vamika.
Likewise, Trithma. I'm looking forward to what you do with this. Like I said, I love the name. And good luck. I know it's going to be, whatever you do, it's going to be great. You are a great designer. So just keep doing what you're doing.